Hello, I'm Jonah, aka Dukes, and a year and a half ago, I did my first Grounds episode in this same room here in Portland, Oregon. And now I'm back to tell you what the heck has been going on. The Grounds is back. "18 months ago, I sat here in this very room to spill the beans. Hi. Hello. Although there are now less pictures and less plants because I love shaking things up, and the plants are still alive, they just needed more light, so they're in different areas of my house. I'm still very much me, and things are still very much happening. Now, there's a lot of backstory on me and my music in the first Grounds episode I did, so if you haven't seen it and want to get up to speed, we will leave a link in the description so you can check it out. But here is a quick recap. I've been making funky electronic music as Dukes since about 2016, and at the end of 2020, I had fallen into some bad habits of not posting, not releasing music, not really doing anything to build my music career, just kind of stagnant and making beats alone in my room. I came on the Grounds back then to share where I was at, what I was afraid of, what my challenges were, and to share with all of you what was going on. Burnout was really affecting me, and I just couldn't seem to manage to keep releases and new projects consistent, so I kept having these long gaps of doing absolutely nothing. I really felt like striving to be perfect in everything I released was holding me back. I knew I needed to break some of these habits and develop new systems to support the consistent content creation and output of my art. So I leaned into friends, collaborators, and the Indepreneur community to get there. So it's been about 18 months now, and I'm so excited to be back on the Grounds today because this last year or so has honestly been some of the best and most productive time that I've spent working on the Dukes project, and I've really accomplished a lot. If we start right from my last Grounds episode, I was pretty much at this point of acknowledging things need to change in how I work, or I'm never going to get anything done. I was asking, how do I avoid burnout? How do I stop holding myself back because I want everything to be perfect? So to start to combat that first issue, burnout, I decided to start being much more intentional and focused in my music making process. Now, I have a pretty heavy project management background from different jobs that I've had, and I wanted to really lean on that to build a system that I knew I could rely on to ship new projects. I decided to start using Asana to track all of my music work and meeting with my good friend and Indepreneur teammate Circa once per week for demos. We would talk about the work we accomplished over the previous week, challenges we ran into, wins that we'd had, and then we'd plan out the work for the next week. We followed an adapted version of a workflow known as Scrum, and if you're interested to learn more about that, tap into the Indepreneur community because we have resources on it and it's a little bit long-winded to cover here in this video. But these three things alone, managing my work in Asana, following a loose framework for getting stuff done, and having a friend and peer who I was accountable to made huge difference for me almost immediately. This took some of my focus away from tasks and projects that didn't matter and allowed me to really hone in on what did, which for me was building this system that would enable me to generate content consistently. One of the things Circa and I would look at every week was, what are the most meaningful steps we can take this week? What value can we deliver? Now, for the other biggest challenge I was up against, which is kind of combating this need to be perfect, this was a little bit more challenging. It's not an easy thing to just ignore my fears and doubts, but it's simply what I had to do. Just putting one foot in front of the other. To help myself out, I made commitments to myself to care less about how perfect my stuff was, and to follow a saying that we love around here at Indepreneur when it comes to releasing music: done is better than perfect. I also forced myself to set deadlines. I have a tendency to work on songs until I'm literally sick of them, and I know a lot of other artists and musicians can relate. By setting deadlines, I ensured that I'd have to hit send by a certain date, and just trust in the work I had done on the song up to that point. I think that was probably the biggest challenge for me because I've always been kind of scared of what people would think about me and my music, and I know it's held me back from releasing stuff that I've wanted to. It was even more challenging recently because I kind of started to move away from featuring singers, which I've done a lot in the past, and I was instead putting myself out there more as an instrumental artist with my own weird blend of funky, dancey, electronic music. So here I was, all set to get to work, and you might be asking, how did the start of 2021 go? It was awesome. I hit the ground running and I released 4 new singles in the first 6 months of the year, each with its own video. I was posting regularly, making art that I really dug, and even though the doubts I had were still present, I didn't let them hold me back. I definitely had setbacks and it wasn't perfect, but I really leaned into my systems, Asana, deadlines, meeting with my accountability buddy 𝘢𝘐 to keep me on track and ensure success. I kept up releasing new music and videos and just posting about everyday life. I got engaged and talked about it, then I got married and talked about it. I took fun trips and shared photos. Again, just focusing less on the idea that everything I post has to be this perfectly crafted piece of content. I also had a stroke or two of good luck. I'd like to think it was also just momentum, but a pretty prominent Twitch streamer featured one of my songs in a video, and that actually brought in a ton of new fans. What was cool is that win didn't have to be this isolated one-off incident. I like to think it was just a positive affirmation of sorts that, hey, you're doing good stuff is going to keep happening. So towards the end of 2021, I really felt like my systems for putting stuff out consistently had developed nicely, and I had built up some armor to kind of protect me from, the perfectionism, doubt, all that stuff. I knew the next step was to start marketing my music because at this point, everything I had done on my own in the last year was just organic posting. Now, one of the things I talked about in that first Grounds episode is how I've been around the Indepreneur community for years because I'm good friends with 𝘢𝘐. In the early days of the company, 𝘢𝘐 would run all of the ads for Dukes, and so I got to see the rewards and benefits from that without really ever having to do much of it myself. I think it was something that I definitely struggled to pick up, but now I felt ready to really gain some more knowledge for myself. So last winter, I really started to dig in on Indepreneur trainings. I started asking my teammates for help, and bit by bit, I was running new campaigns on my own and getting more and more comfortable in Ads Manager. So now it's June 2022, and where am I at now? I've been running ads successfully, testing out a variety of both new and old content since about late March. Something that's worked really well for me is repurposing a lot of the old fan finders I had, which did really well. I've seen those ads generate lots of love on Spotify and seen a huge uptick in my listenership. From running Reels ads, I've also seen a big jump in my IG followers over the last few months. Because I've been so active releasing new stuff, I've also had plenty of new material to send to my sync company to keep them pitching my songs. This has led to several new placements that I've had this year, all of which paid out pretty well. Another thing that I'm really excited about that I've been working on is that I have finally started to warm up my email lists, which hadn't heard from me in 4+ years. And believe it or not, the results have been really positive. People who signed up for my album launch back in 2018 were thrilled to be hearing from me again. So if you're ever wondering what kind of brand loyalty comes with the work we do here in the Indepreneur community, there you go. Great example. 4 years, no emails. I'm also finishing a build for my Shopify store with eyes on starting to make sales in the next couple of months. And this is huge. It's been a big goal for mine, another big milestone for me. So I'm really excited to be getting that going. And of course, I'm also still working on new tunes and videos. There's just so much good stuff going on. So I definitely feel like I've overcome a lot of the challenges that I was facing when I first came on the grounds. So 18 months from the last time I did an episode, what have I learned? First off, momentum is important. I've had a lot of good things happen as a result of just doing good work. I obviously can't draw a straight line from one to the other, and I can't guarantee that the good things wouldn't have happened were I just doing nothing, but the energy I've felt while getting things done is just undeniable. I truly believe that by just doing the work, awesome things will continue to come my way. Another thing that I've learned and really focused on is that I need to take breaks to avoid burnout so I can come back to my work renewed. This one has been huge for me. I think that by meeting every week with 𝘢𝘐 to plan my work, it's allowed me to look at what's going on in my life and adjust my workload accordingly. I can't expect to do everything at 100% all the time, and by scaling back when I need to, I've been able to really stay consistent. This meant that some weeks I didn't do any music work at all, but I made sure that I was okay with that. Take a break. You deserve it. Another thing I'm still learning, and kind of a common thread for me in all of this, is nothing will ever be perfect. I always want to ship the best stuff I can, but that becomes a problem when it's something I'm always chasing and the cost is nothing gets done. I've slowly grown more comfortable with that feeling, and while I don't know if it will ever go away, it's at least at a manageable level for now. I've built up that scar tissue that comes from repetition, and I imagine it will continue to get easier. So guys, it's a pretty happy story for Dukes. Up till here, I've really accomplished a lot in the last 18 months. But you might be wondering what's next for me and the Dukes project. So I'm continuing to stick to my systems. Life seasons are definitely changing for me. There's just a lot going on in general, but I'm trying to stay focused on the things that got me here in the first place. I also want to keep finding new ways to adapt and grow my systems so that they continue to get better over time. And I think just trying to be patient, trusting the process, trusting that slow, incremental progress. And finally, I'd say a big goal for me now is to use the systems I've built and the strategies I've learned to finish a new record and do an album launch in the next year or so. I've had a new Dukes album on my mind for a while, and I finally feel like I'm at a great spot to make it happen. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed catching up on all things Dukes. I'm really excited where things are heading, and I can't wait to do another Grounds episode to share more news. I hope you're there to check it out, and if you do, I'll see you next time right here on the Grounds.